Okay, so I am watching this UK election results, and unfortunately, my computer is really lagging, and we're having a lot of problems here. So, excuse me if I'm a little distracted. But I told you yesterday, I gave you the preview. Maybe it was days ago. Bernie in the Shadow of the Red Rose, and I predicted this that American leftists who were looking for a guide, maybe a path from Britain through Jeremy Corbyn to a more radical left wing America. This election has been a huge, huge disaster for them. Possibly the biggest repudiation of ideological leftism that I've lived through. Obviously, I was old enough to. I was born by the time the Cold War ended, but I was probably like 6 years old. So at the time I was thinking of things like playing baseball and digging up bugs. So anyway, this is mine. It was published in American Greatness yesterday, and I could not be more happy that this prediction came true. And I want to remind you guys that you do have this prediction that many people were trying to convolute, that Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn could be like a dynamic duo. These people who would be able to turn Britain into the socialist, and Britain and America into these two twin socialist, the democratic socialist Western nations. That is not going to happen in the case of Britain. So it will serve, I believe, as a warning to the people of America, those who are opponents of Donald Trump, that if they go too far to the left, they can't really hope to gain working class people. And why do I say working class people? Because if you look at what the Democrats are ignoring in terms of immigration, it's the exact same pattern as what you're seeing in Britain. The exact same pattern. You can actually see if you look at some of the maps, which I'll try to do something tomorrow. Right now I'm on a feed, so not very convenient for me. But the Labour Party has lost seats in two very key areas. The first area is the northeast of England, which is the industrial and working class heartland. And currently the results, and this right now it's 11 o'clock as I'm taping this or recording it. Obviously, I'm not using VHS. As of right now, the Conservatives have 236 seats. Labour has 160. The Liberal Democrats have 7. The Scottish National Party has 36. Obviously, there's some Northern Ireland parties that have done reasonably well. The Labour Party has lost 8% of their vote in the seats already counted, and they've already lost 45 seats. A lot of those seats were lost to the Conservatives in the Brexiteer heartland of the Northeast and other working class parts of the country. So that's the first area. And that's exactly what I illustrated in Bernie in the Shadow of the Red Rose, which is the one that I was talking about yesterday. And they actually, so the key constituencies are these, the ones that you have to win over. If you are a Labour Party voter, you need to win over conservative Remainers. Jeremy Corbyn failed to do that. Those people in many of these constituencies continue to vote conservative. They continue to vote Tory, even though supposedly that would be their bread and butter issue. That's not what happened. I'm having some freezing here, so bear with me. The other thing so the other key constituency was the Labour Leave vote, which the Conservatives were able to get to defect from Corbyn very, very effectively. And then there's the other aspect of what's been going on, which is the other parts of the United Kingdom that are not necessarily following the rest of it. So that would be Scotland. Scotland was a very pro-Remain country within the UK, and they voted Remain in much larger numbers. Now, Corbyn was too wobbly when he was campaigning, both during his time in the opposition as leader of the opposition prior to Brexit, He was very wobbly about Brexit. Wouldn't really commit to the Remain side, and therefore a lot of people blamed him for the referendum being lost anyway. The other problem is that once Brexit was completed, he would not commit to a second Scottish referendum for those Scottish people who had voted to remain in the UK during the Scottish independence referendum of 2015. And he wouldn't commit to that. And he also, for a long time, wouldn't commit to a second people's vote, which is what the Remainers wanted, the Remoaners, as they're called. So Jeremy Corbyn was not Remain enough for most Remain people, and that's not good for him either. Now, in order to try to saddle and sit on the fence, he has come up with what he says is a neutral position on Brexit, which is the most important issue in the United Kingdom, meaning that he would negotiate a trade deal. He would negotiate Brexit with the European Union, and then he wouldn't campaign one way or another for the trade deal or the exit deal, whatever you want to call it, or remaining in the European Union if there was to be a second referendum. So Jeremy Corbyn was going to promise to negotiate Brexit on different terms and then get an agreement and then not support that agreement in the new referendum. So that was a completely contradictory position. If you're committing to negotiate a process that you yourself, you're not committed to the consequence of it, you're only committed to giving the choice, that's not something that shows high confidence. So that was really what lost him the election, in my opinion. It lost him the Leave voters, who are mostly Labour voters in the industrial heartland of Britain. And it also lost him the Remain voters in Scotland and some of the Scottish nationalists who might be a little more centrist and sometimes may vote Labour. So they've lost a crazy amount of seats in both Scotland and in the rest of the UK. And you actually see other ramifications of this. First of all, Jeremy Corbyn did resign. I actually watched it. Maybe tomorrow I'll try to pull up some video of that. But you have the Conservatives are holding a tremendous amount of seats, and then it actually says they're going to win a majority of 76 to 88 seats, which is beautiful for them if they want to pursue Brexit. The other consequence is that the main Remainer party, the one that really, really was all out on Remain, they said, well, we're not going to, they actually renamed themselves the Liberal Democrats Stop Brexit Party. They lost the seat of the leader of the Liberal Democrat Party, Jo Swinson, which was in East Dunfordshire, I think it's called, or Dunbartonshire. Doesn't matter. She lost. So she is done. I've been watching the Sargon stream most of the night. She's completely toast. And that means that this election is effectively a renunciation of the Remain side. It is everything that the people were saying since 2016, that they should respect the referendum. They don't need democracy to be forced to make the right choice. And the reaction to this on Twitter is very interesting. First of all, already today at 7:06, Jonathan Chait has agreed effectively with my premise. Okay, I'll read the first paragraph. We don't have a billion years to do this, but it says in 2015, so this is me, December 11th, 2019, it says, in 2015, having lost a disastrous election with Edward Miliband as its leader, the UK Labour Party was in total disarray and held a leadership election. To the surprise of everyone, the contest saw an aging backbench radical named Jeremy Corbyn win by a landslide over more polished and media-savvy frontrunners Yvette Cooper, Andy Burnham, and Liz Kendall. But on Thursday, Corbyn's reign could reach its summit with the latest snap general election triggered by a hung parliament and the failure to resolve Brexit under Conservative Prime Ministers Theresa May and Boris Johnson. While nothing can be ruled out until the votes are counted, at the moment, Corbyn looks to be guiding Labour to a tremendous defeat, one that could raise chatter about the viability of a far-left candidate here in the United States. And then it goes through a bunch of other things, and then it says, In the past, Corbyn was a staunch Eurosceptic who opposed the UK's entry into the Eurozone. But in the leader debates, when Johnson posed the question, Corbyn refused to say whether he personally would campaign for his own negotiated settlement or would favor scrapping Brexit altogether and staying in the EU. So that's what cost Corbyn the election. And I actually go into the details of the Lord Ashcroft poll from November, which saw all of those Remainer conservatives remaining with, ironically, they chose to remain with Boris Johnson rather than remain with the EU. But all the Leave Labour voters chose to leave Jeremy Corbyn. So the same thing could happen. And I'm telling you this, it's going to happen. It has nothing to do, everybody said, oh, this election is going to be about either, the NHS or a lot of Corbyn's critics were saying it's because he's an anti-Semite and all that. Look, at the end of the day, it was Brexit. It was Brexit the whole time. It was Brexit. Everybody's going to remember this was about Brexit. And people who said, oh, Jeremy Corbyn, how could they elect him because he's a socialist or whatever? It had nothing to do with him being a socialist. It had everything to do with him selling out to the people that had built the Labour Party for many, many years. And now they're even saying that the Labour Party could have its worst election result since before World War II. And that would be the biggest repudiation of leftism in decades, at least electorally. It would be a tremendous, tremendous fail for Jeremy Corbyn. What does that mean for Bernie Sanders? Well, what's the analogous issue in the United States to Brexit? It's immigration. Brexit is partially related to immigration because of freedom of movement and because of the UK's desires. So they want to change immigration in a certain way. They do want an Australian-based point system, and they want people from the rest of the Commonwealth, which is places like India, maybe like Hong Kong, I guess. Technically, Hong Kong would be, it's not even part of the Commonwealth. So let's not even speculate. But they want to change immigration. They don't want open movement. They don't want movement. They don't want refugees. That's for sure. Those people are against all that. So they voted for Boris Johnson. Here in the U.S., Donald Trump had built his 2016 campaign on issues of immigration. There were plenty of people who voted for Donald Trump for other issues. I, for example, voted because of Obamacare. I didn't care about immigration at the time. But the people that were the bread and butter voters for Donald Trump were immigration voters. They wanted to build the wall. They didn't want open borders. They wanted they didn't want the TPP. They didn't want NAFTA. All of those things. Those are the things that are analogous to Brexit, but especially the immigration issue. And on immigration, Bernie has moved steadily to the left. Used to be a person who said that open borders was a Koch brothers proposal. I have that here. I have it quoted and everything. And from now on, he is on borrowed time, Bernie Sanders. He will be called the person who Corbynized the Democratic Party if he gets nominated and he loses. Because I think at this point, it becomes obvious that his ideas, they may poll well, but they don't actually vote well. And Jonathan Chait of the New York magazine Intelligencer actually has written this. The British election results, like any election result, is the result of, he says, he uses the word result 3 times in the same sentence. Is the result, now he's making me cough, is the result of unique circumstances and multiple factors. It is also, however, a test of a widely articulated political theory that has important implications for American politics. That theory holds that Corbyn's populist left-wing platform is both necessary and sufficient in order to defeat the rising nationalist right. Corbyn's crushing defeat is a decisive refutation. This is coming from Jonathan Chait. It's not coming from Nigel Farage. It's not coming from who's someone here. It's not coming from Jonah Goldberg. It's not coming from Ben Shapiro. It's not coming from Richard Spencer. It's not coming from Candace Owens. It's coming from Jonathan Chait, who, he might not be the furthest left person, but this is certainly a problem for people on the left because it gives them ammunition and there's nothing that they can argue. Jeremy Corbyn shat the bed, and there's nothing that anybody on the left can do in order to deflect from that. They're going to make excuses, but they're going to be pathetic excuses, and you're going to see a lot of them. In fact, maybe we'll get a few of them in these tweets. By the way, I'm banned on Twitter, so it's a lot of it's almost like being a fly on the wall because you can't respond, but you can certainly watch what's going on. Many writers, not only on the left, detected parallels between the rise of Corbyn and the movement around Bernie Sanders. The latter is considerably more moderate and pragmatic than the former, and also not laden with the political baggage of Corbyn's widely derided openness to anti-Semitic allies. See, they brought that up. Look, I think that it certainly was an issue in Corbyn's career, but that's not why he lost. And yet, many leftists have emphasized the similarities between the two, which are indeed evident. Both built youth-oriented movements led by cadres of radical activists who openly set out to destroy and remake their parties. Both lost in somewhat close fashion. Sanders in 2016 and Corbyn the next year. And fervent supporters of both men treated their narrow defeats as quasi-victories, proof of victory just around the corner. Arguments of this sort tend to quickly devolve into strawman attacks. So in order to show that the view I'm describing is widespread, I am sharing lengthy excerpts from a half dozen essays written by American leftists in recent years. Only Socialism Can Defeat Trumpism by Nicole Ashoff and Bhaskar Sankara of The Nation. So those people, first of all, Bhaskar Sankara is the person who founded Jacobin, which is a very radical left pro-Bernie publication. They've endorsed Bernie, by the way. It says the past year has shown that millions of ordinary people are ready for an alternative, one pointed to by the success of Sanders and the Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn in Britain. As with the collapsing social democrats in Europe, the Democratic Party's best bet is to move left and embrace a platform that speaks to the real needs, fears, and aspirations of working people. For the Democrats, no less than their peers in Europe. So then it goes through this. So I'll try to include this in the comment with all the links. By the way, I always put on YouTube. I always put all the links in the first comment because I can't put it in the description for some reason. It screws with the algorithm. It doesn't even matter anymore. Watch me on BitChute, bitch. Anyway, Jeremy Corbyn's success is a model for American progressives by Jamie Downey of the Washington Post, June 2017. Here's another one. Jeremy Corbyn is leading the left out of the wilderness and toward power by Mehdi Hasan. I don't think he's thinking that anymore today. You can see some pretty salty tweets from Mehdi Hasan today. We'll get to him, I hope. The American left has found a new hero, Paul Blest of The Outline. How Jeremy Corbyn is inspiring the American left by Graham Demjanjuk of Huffington Post UK, July 2017. Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn might create a revolution. Robert Borosage, The Nation. This is the one that I used as proof. It says there are certainly some points that can be made on behalf of the socialist politics. The Great Recession created among the young, a much larger constituency for anti-capitalist politics than existed before. Some, quote, left-wing policies like tough financial regulation and generous pension benefits do command broad public approval, while some centrist policies have proven unpopular. Nonetheless, on the whole, the arguments extrapolating from the success, quote, enjoyed by Corbyn and Sanders suffered from delusional wishful thinking, proceeding from the erroneous Marxist view that capitalism is growing more oppressive and a working class backlash is therefore inevitable. They glommed onto bits of data and ignored a large and growing array of evidence to the contrary. In the UK, this delusion created a bitter argument between the left and center-left. The former insisted on maintaining Corbyn as Labour leader based on the idea not only that he could and would win, but in some cases that his Labour critics opposed him precisely because they feared he would. Their moralistic fervor made any sober political... So he's not mentioning Brexit here. That's what's so retarded. So he knows exactly what the problem is. It's not even just the socialism. It's the pure lack of self-reflection that socialists have. As early as 2016, a writer for the Progressive New Statesman was lamenting the sheer intensity of Corbyn's support combined with some of his supporters' glassy-eyed denial of reality and desire to, quote, purge the party unfaithful, and compared it to a, quote, cult or a religious movement. Corbyn's victory became a matter of faith, and its adherents continued to tout wisps of evidence for it even in the face of dismal polling. So November 11th, it said, I've seen the future, and the future is bright. And because the Conservatives had not moved the meter, and Labour they gained 1 point in the poll for that one. They thought that they were going to get it. Well, let's look at the vote today. The polls don't mean shit because now, as of right now, it's 43-34 in favor of the Conservatives. So yeah, how's that polling looking right now, Bascara or Baskers and Cara? Whether a more moderate Labour leader would have defeated Johnson, who is highly unpopular and still far less unpopular than Corbyn, is unknowable. What is certain is that his delirious backers assumed his success and built around it a self-serving theory from which they refuse to deviate in the face of mounting occasions of doom. That is it. That is it. Let's see what the one comment is. Or if there are any comments. Maybe not. Here we go. Last four letters of American, I can. Last four letters of Republicans. Oh, people are like trolling it. Good analog. The last truly radical Democrat elected president was nobody. This person says, nice cherry-picked list. I don't know of anyone on the left who was so brazenly cocksure that Corbyn would win in the U.S. or the UK. Why are all the articles you cite American and not British? This piece's premise that all liberals were so sure Corbyn would win is simply false. That's what's so... They're missing the point. Bhaskar Sunkara, people like him, people like this other person, Borisaje from The Nation, those are people who are typical. What he's talking about is that this was seen as the template for success. Jeremy Corbyn was the template for success. How's that template looking right now? As of right now, the Conservatives are at 269, and there's still several seats to go. And they've gained 37 seats. Labour has already lost 49. And the only bright spot for people who are Remainers, so the Scottish Nationalist Party has gained some seats. So that take that for what it's worth. That's mostly, I would say, backlash against everyone else. Backlash against the Conservatives, backlash against the Labour Party, backlash against certainly the Liberal Democrats have lost a few seats to them. So here are some tweets here. So Ben Rhodes said, the guy who the Iran deal architect, said there are a lot of factors that went into this massive defeat, but progressives have to learn from them to do better on both sides of the Atlantic, and above all, not to succumb to apathy, cynicism, or despair. That's the whole strategy for people like Trump and Boris. Well, you fucking lost. You lost. You should despair, you piece of crap. So, yeah, that's going to hurt in the morning. So it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, in my opinion, how these people are spinning what's going on. And sorry, it's really freezing up on me now. It says here, as well she should, as Jeremy Corbyn assured Boris Johnson's victory. The UK will go down with Brexit. Scotland should get out ASAP, as should Northern Ireland and Wales. So they have zero confidence in their country because they don't actually trust the voters. Does that sound familiar to anyone? People who are on the left do not trust the voters at all. I said, when you have to go back, I'm not going to pull the video, but when the leftist was elected the president of Mexico, Lopez Obrador, I said, well, look, I don't like him, but they made their choice and they're going to have to live with it, and it's fine by me. And look, they don't like their choice, but I didn't wish that Mexico would go down, as I never try to. And I try always to hope for the best for people that I don't know. People, not that I really care that much, but the fact is, this is really freezing up on me, but you're going to see a lot of people over the next few days trying to rationalize this in many different ways. They're going to say that it was the media. Some people, Max Blumenthal already went out and said, hey, it's because of Russiagate smears against Jeremy Corbyn. Well, people were telling Russiagate smears against Boris Johnson too. So it's literally a circular argument. Everybody gets accused of being a tool of Russia. One second. So yeah, this is I would say one of the greatest defeats of the entire history of leftism. It's over for the Labour Party in the UK. At least for the next 5 years, they're going to have to fight over what the party is going to look like, because obviously it didn't help them that Jeremy Corbyn won. It says, and this person celebrating is saying, ha ha ha, Jeremy Corbyn, how does it feel to only have being an anti-Semite going for you? That's kind of funny. Jeremy Corbyn, the lunatic, communist, totalitarian, hateful, pathetic excuse. Sorry, 1 second. I still can't control the cursor here. Still processing, so sorry. Let me see if I can go back here. So as of right now, I'm going to wait for Twitter to recharge. You have the Conservatives boosting their total to 276. They only need 50 more seats to win, which they're going to get, in my opinion, because a lot of the seats that are left out are already Conservatives, and they only have to hold them. This is easily going to be the worst defeat for the left that has ever. It's easily the worst defeat in the lifetime of people who are voting today. I don't think that there's many people who were voting back in 1935 or whenever it was. So, I think, it's gone back to Mehdi Hassan. So this is what's so funny. This guy who he has such contempt for Trump voters here. He went and said, anyone claiming but my candidate is popular is going to have a bad time. Warren, Bernie, and Biden are all three equal in being slightly underwater in approval. It will be an ugly and partisan game of inches no matter whom we nominate. Fox News will take its toll no matter what. So they're going to be fighting now over who's going to be the best choice of all, and saying, will Trump debate a Democrat in 2020? He's not so sure. So they're already trying to move on from this election. But it's not going to be very easy. Let me see here. He retweeted this guy, Zach Carter. So Zach Carter is from the Huffington Post. He says, for the far right, this is driven by identity, xenophobia, race, antagonism toward the outsider. The challenge for the left/center is to find a way to convince voters that they're on their side without capitulating to hate. Wow, they've already they've already tried to pivot back to the center. It says here, David Vance, who is from DVA TV, says, a dark day for anti-Semites. Wouldn't you say? Talking about Jeremy Corbyn losing. And Mehdi Hassan says, far-right loon who spreads conspiracy theories about Soros being the puppet master behind everyone from Emmanuel Macron to Anna Soubry to Greta Thunberg is giving out lectures on anti-Semitism. No, there's nothing anti-Semitic about attacking George Soros. Absolutely ridiculous that people should choose to go around looking like letterboxes. That's not mocking from Boris. If I said you look like Hitler because of that mustache you're sporting, you wouldn't say I'm mocking you. I think it's different to make fun of someone for looking like a letterbox than for calling them what's it called, Adolf Hitler, which is probably going to get a strike for my channel or demotion. Joy Reid retweeted this. She says, indeed, Mehdi Hassan says, dark day for minorities in the UK, especially for British Muslims who watched as a man who said Islam was the problem, mocked veiled Muslim women, and also turned a blind eye to massive anti-Muslim hatred in his party, was just given a landslide majority by their fellow Britons. Mehdi Hassan is ignoring the fact that just about a week and a half ago, there was a literal terror attack on London Bridge for the second time in the last 3 years, committed by a Muslim terrorist who had already been convicted of a terror crime, who was out on early release because of Jeremy Corbyn. So the least he could do is attribute some of the problem. I'm not saying all the problem, because I still think it was Brexit, but some of the problem to the fact that Labour is not committed to actually solving the issue of radical Islam and terrorism in the United Kingdom. But that's about it. It's been about a half hour. I just wanted to update you and tell you that, yes, I was published for this at American Greatness. I will put this in the links, and also the New York Magazine has already started to talk about why what I said was exactly correct. They're going to start complaining that Bernie Sanders is going to Corbynize the Democratic Party. So that's about it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also subscribe to me on BitChute, Minds, and on Subscribestar if you want to donate some money. All of those are at Chef Leopard, at Chef, C-H-E-F, Leopard, L-E-O-P-A-R-D, as the handle, and on Gab at Starscream85. And I'll talk to you later.